The time period between 1890 and 1945 changed America and helped it to develop in many different ways. Due to the many issues going on at the time, decisions had to be made to address them. The American Progressive Era was addressed to the problems introduced by rapid industrialization in America. Therefore, rapid urbanization, immigration, and industrialization led to national growth in the late 1800s, changing America. Cultural conflicts between groups increased due to the spread of modern values and ideas. Most Americans were enthusiastic about the transformation of their physical environments. However, they were much more ambivalent about the religious, moral, and cultural implications of a scientific worldview. Progressive era's beliefs were that government should be more regulatory and give citizens more rights. Progressives were people that believed the government should have more welfare options so that there would be a minimum standard of living. The rise of an urban industrial society encouraged the development of a variety of cultural expressions for migrant, regional, and African American artists. It also contributed to national culture by making shared experiences more possible through art, cinema, and the mass media.
Beep. Beep.
Excuse me, ma'am. Has that meat been properly inspected?
Yes, ma'am, we are aware of the new Meat Inspection Act. We are up to code on all of our meat products.
Thank you. Are you aware of the new safety regulations of how meat is supposed to be transported?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The global ramifications of World War I and wartime patriotism, combined with social tensions created by increased international migration, resulted in legislation restricting immigration from Asia and from Southern and Eastern Europe. Global conflict over resources, territories, and ideologies renewed debates over the nation's value and its role in the world, while simultaneously propelling the United States into a dominant international military, political, cultural, and economic position. In the years following World War I, the United States pursued a foreign policy that used international investment, peace treaties, and select military intervention to promote a vision of international order. The American people believed in isolation and neutrality, but President Roosevelt wanted to join the war as soon as possible. After World War II, America arose as a global superpower. This sparked the Cold War with Russia.
What is that? What is that? What is that noise? Pearl Harbor's under attack! Oh my god!
6.5 hours later.
This just in. Pearl Harbor has been attacked and it is advised that you take cover immediately.
Tune in later for updates.
Many Americans began to advocate overseas expansionism in the late 19th century, leading to new territorial ambitions and acquisitions in the Western Hemisphere. In the Pacific, the American victory in the Spanish-American War led to the U.S. acquisition of island territories and expanded economic and military presence in the Caribbean and Latin America. Engagement in a protracted insurrection in the Philippines and increased involvement in Asia.
Blacks, Native Americans, and Chinese were increasingly excluded from the growing opportunities for wealth and freedom. Several acts of Congress established highly restrictive immigration, while national policies continued to permit unrestricted immigration from nations in the Western Hemisphere, especially Mexico, in order to guarantee an inexpensive supply of labor. Many Americans migrated during the Great Depression, often driven by economic difficulties, and during World Wars I and II, as a result of the need for wartime production labor. Workers rose up to strike against the overwhelming power of their employers, demanding better wages and working conditions and disrupting national production and transportation industries. As labor strikes and racial strife disrupted society, the immediate post-war period witnessed the first Red Scare, which legitimized attacks on radicals and immigrants.
Communism is so stupid. Like, why would you even want to be a part of that?
I know. I mean, why would there ever want to be a lack of money in social classes? And people don't know how to work for their own things.
Communism's not that bad. During the struggling time period of the Great Depression, the percentage of incoming immigrants declined majorly, but did not stop. African Americans were faced with constant racism in the form of segregation in public spaces, lynchings, disenfranchisement from the political process, and no access to quality health care, education, and housing. After the United States entered the war in 1917, women supported the war effort in numerous ways. Recognizing the changes that were occurring in the lives of some women, the public and the press coined a phrase for these women, the New Women. The New Women was supposedly young, college educated, active in sports, interested in pursuing a career, and looking for a marriage based on equality.
Spare change, spare change, spare change. Do you have any spare change? Spare change.
I'm sorry, I don't have any money to spare. My family barely has enough to eat tonight.
Spare change, spare change.
Mom, bread and beans again?
This is all we can afford. This is all we get at the ration line.
Between 1890 and 1945, the U.S. had a series of strong leaders. For example, Theodore Roosevelt, a proponent of the new nationalist reform. Throughout his administration, Roosevelt attempted to strike a balance between employers and employees in labor disputes and pledged to give Americans a square deal. William Howard Taft supported Roosevelt's square deal policy of attempting to strike a balance between employers and employees and conservatives and progressives. Woodrow Wilson was a leading progressive arguing for a stronger central government and fighting for an antitrust legislation and labor rights. As president, he passed important legislation and many other issues, narrowly winning re-election in 1916. After pledging to keep America out of World War I, William's foreign policy was noted for its idealistic humanitarianism, with his 14 points. Wilson was heavily involved in post-war negotiations, resulting in the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations.
Another round. I'm sorry, guys. I've just been notified about the prohibition on alcoholic beverages. We're not going to have any more alcohol for a while. Maybe not at all.
The growth and consolidation of large corporations transformed American society and the nation's economy due to effects of large-scale industrialization and economic uncertainty. Dating from the Progressive Era to the end of World War II, technology in the U.S. increased immensely. The development of the atomic bomb initiated the atomic age, a time of anxiety over weapons over mass destruction that lasted through the Cold War and down to the anti-proliferation efforts of today. The Great Depression led to calls for the creation of a stronger financial regulatory system which offered new economic opportunities for women, internal migrants, and international migrants who continued to flock to the States.
Okay, here's the plan for the atomic bomb. We have everything we need together. We have it in a discrete location. All we have to do is get it built.
How long is that going to take?
It could take a few days. It could take a few weeks. It all just depends.
We're going to kill those Japs.